Hello, welcome to my channel. The Cassandra's dream drifted between realities, mirroring the Caribbean, but also the Mediterranean, reflecting the sky of a place that had never existed. It was there, it had always been there. A single, simple phrase cut through the static of the radio as Captain Marcus Delacroix pressed the transmitter one final time. His weathered hands trembled, not with fear, but from an electric charge that danced across his skin. Mayday, Mayday, this is Cassandra's dream. Our position is, he paused, staring at navigation instruments that spun like dervishes. The GPS displayed coordinates that placed them simultaneously in the Caribbean, the Mediterranean, and somewhere off a landmass that didn't exist. We are lost, he concluded. First Officer Elena Vasquez clutched her grandmother's rosary, wooden beads worn smooth by desperate fingers. She had navigated hurricanes with steady nerves, but what surrounded them defied every natural law. The water had become liquid mercury, and within its depths, massive shapes moved with purposeful intelligence. Captain Elena whispered, "The stars." She pointed upward. Familiar constellations had rearranged into patterns that hurt to look at directly, forming geometric shapes pulsing with internal light. The Big Dipper had become a seven-pointed star. Orion's belt formed a perfect triangle. It began 3 days earlier when they entered the waters whispered about in dockside taverns. The Bermuda Triangle was more than legend to those who made their living on the ocean. It carried the weight of too many unanswered questions. But Delacroix had been pragmatic, dismissive of superstition. Cargo needed moving, schedules kept, and the direct route from Miami to San Juan cut through the mystery's heart. Now, watching 23 crew members move with sleepwalker precision, he wondered if pragmatism was his fatal flaw. Chief Engineer Rodriguez stood motionless, staring at diesel engines running without fuel, their pistons moving in patterns that followed no earthly physics. They actually sang, in harmonies making the steel hull vibrate like a struck tuning fork. "How can we be down to 2/3 fuel with 3 days to port?" he muttered, knowing full well the answer lay in the impossible calm of the waters, the unnerving stillness of the air, the surreal waltz of the celestial bodies overhead. Cook Mary Thornfield prepared meals for passengers who didn't exist, setting tables for 37, though only 24 souls sailed aboard. When questioned, she said the others were coming, that she heard their voices calling from below, from deep places where light never reached. Seaman apprentice David Chen sketched in a leather journal that appeared in his quarters, a book he swore he'd never seen. His drawings showed the ship from impossible perspectives, aerial views from impossible heights, cross-sections, revealing hidden chambers not in the blueprints, and most disturbing portraits of crewmates as they would look in death faces, peaceful but eyes holding terrible knowledge. Dr. Sarah Ashford stopped trying to explain phenomena rationally after discovering every crew member showed identical symptoms: complete absence of delta wave sleep patterns, body temperatures fluctuating, independent of environment, and blood that moved in formations resembling microscopic fish schools. Her medical bay became a laboratory of impossibilities, where bandages healed random crew members elsewhere, as if the vessel developed a collective nervous system. Radio engineer Thompson managed sporadic contact with the outside world, but conversations revealed a disturbing truth. While crew experienced days of supernatural phenomena, only hours passed in reality. When Thompson described their situation, responses suggested exhaustion or stress. The captain sounded tired, overworked. The first officer, Vasquez, was experiencing a psychotic break. Any orders given were obeyed immediately. He understood, Thompson thought, because he, too, felt the pull of the unseen forces, the mental pressure urging them ever deeper into the abyss. Now he listened to the recording of his own voice, attempting to piece together the fractured narrative. But when he played back his words, they sounded calm, professional, reporting normal conditions. Desperate pleas for help weren't transmitted. As the first part concluded, Captain Delacroix stood on the bridge during what should be night, watching stars move like living creatures across a sky showing 3 moons. The ocean had become a mirror reflecting not their ship but other vessels, some familiar from maritime history, others unknown, all sailing impossible waters under impossible skies. Ships from the age of discovery, sleek black clippers driven by phantom winds, ghost ships illuminated by spectral lights, vessels that defied categorization, sailing majestically through waters that shouldn't exist. They moved, not as a crew, but as something beyond and below human, watching their familiar world recede, like shoreline disappearing behind morning mist. One by one, the crew disappeared into the swirling mists, leaving only the captain and the first officer. The last sounds they heard were the whispers of their vanished crewmates, their voices echoing from the inky depths below. In the unsettling quiet that followed, Alina looked to Delacroix, her face pale, her eyes wide with the dawning understanding. Their bond, forged over years of shared perils at sea, told him everything he needed to know. She understood now, just as he did, that they were not merely lost at sea, but lost to sea. The ocean had claimed them, body and soul. As the second phase began, the remaining crew, both physically and spiritually, found themselves ensnared in a timeless expanse. Reality as they knew it had dissolved into a watery grave. But their journey was far from over. Their vessel, once a symbol of modern commerce, was now a relic sailing spectral seas. Though they were 2 souls in a crew of none, their connection to the world they once inhabited was severed. There was no up, no down, only an eternal, sideways drift through a panorama of past and future. Alina fought the urge to cry out, to reach for the captain, bound as she was to the wheel of their spectral vessel. This was no place for sentiment. Survival, if that was even possible, demanded focus. She forced herself to observe, to analyze. What they were experiencing transcended mere nautical mysteries. They had breached the veil between known laws of nature, plunged into a realm where physics bowed to some grander, inscrutable design. Through the ethereal gloom, she saw the crew emerging, their forms solidified, no longer the phantoms they had been before. Each returned bearing remnants of their former selves, fragments of their personalities preserved in their eyes, gestures, voices. Yet something was different, something alien infused their being. Meanwhile, the captain wrestled with his inner demons, battling the instincts honed over decades at sea. Panic threatened to engulf him, but he pushed it down, focusing instead on the task at hand. Though their predicament defied rational thought, they had to try to understand. The first step towards survival often lay in knowledge. He just had to figure out what kind of knowledge was required to survive this. As the third and final phase unfolded, the full scope of their fate became horrifyingly clear. Each recovered crewmate bore testament to their ordeal, reliving moments from their lives that had defined their choices, hopes, and regrets. In their stories, Alina and the captain glimpsed the humanity that the ocean had almost claimed, the love, loss, triumph, and tragedy that had shaped each soul. The strength of their bonds was tested as they confronted not only the ghosts of their past, but the echoes of their own mortality. Hope flickered, then flared as they recognized the shared nature of their captivity. The key to release, they realized, lay in confronting their deepest fears and finding peace with their past. The vessel, no longer merely a ghost ship, became a microcosm of their collective experience, a vessel of memory and introspection. Every creak of the timbers, every sigh of the wind through the rigging carried tales of their shared humanity. But the ocean demanded a reckoning. For each step toward unity, there was a pull toward fragmentation, a reminder that their ordeal could fracture them as easily as it had before. Alina and the captain knew they had to hold fast, not just to themselves, but to each other and to the memories that bound them. Their rescue, they understood, would come not from without, but from within, from the strength of their shared story. As the fourth and final phase commenced, the crew united, confronting the horrors of their ordeal head-on. The strength of their collective will began to push back against the watery grave that had threatened to consume them. Yet the ocean was a jealous mistress. demanding tribute from those who dared challenge her depths. With each step toward freedom, new trials arose, testing not just their sanity, but the very essence of their being. Alina and the captain clung to each other, drawing strength from their bond. They had come so far, endured so much. The faintest glimmer of hope was enough to keep them going. For survival meant more than merely escaping the watery grave. It meant preserving the memory of their ordeal, bearing witness to the horrors of the deep, so that others might learn from their fate. Their ordeal was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the enduring power of hope, and the profound strength of the bonds that connected them. Alina looked to the horizon, a faint light piercing the unending gloom. Was it a ship, a lighthouse, or merely a figment of her imagination? The captain was beside her, his arm around her shoulder, a silent vow passing between them. Whatever awaited them, they would face it together. And in the fifth and final phase, their ordeal reached its climax. The struggles of the past phases culminated in a final, desperate bid for freedom. The boundaries between life and death, sanity and madness, grew ever thinner, threatening to collapse entirely. Each crew member confronted their deepest fears, not just for themselves, but for those they had left behind in the world they were losing. The ocean's grip tightened, determined to claim them all. But their unity, forged in the fires of their shared trauma, proved stronger than the watery grave's pull. As dawn broke over the spectral seas, the crew emerged transformed. Their ordeal had stripped them bare, leaving only their essential selves, more alive, more human than ever before. The ship, now a vessel of rebirth rather than damnation, carried them forth, battered but unbroken. With the dawning of a new day, their ordeal officially ended. The watery grave that had threatened to consume them receded, leaving behind a vast, unending sea of possibilities. But the true test lay ahead, returning to a world that had moved on without them, bearing the scars of their experience, yet forever changed by their ordeal. When dawn broke, it was like a fever, bringing not relief, but a heightened awareness of how far they'd traveled from the rational world. The sun rose wrong, pale silver casting no shadows, providing no warmth. Its light, though, was good, revealing details daylight should hide. Captain Delacroix watched from the bridge as the empty horizon now showed ship silhouettes stretching endlessly, a vast armada from every era of maritime history floating in perfect formation. The sight struck him like physical force. These were the missing ships, vanished vessels historians debated and conspiracy theorists obsessed over, gathered in this impossible anchorage. Beyond normal space-time boundaries, USS Cyclops floated majestically to starboard, massive bulk unmarked by time, crew visible moving with the same dreamlike purpose, governing his own people. Carol Deering rode nearby, her famous mystery solved. Unsettlingly, she hadn't been abandoned, but carried her crew into this realm where abandonment and presence became identical. Alina joined him carrying binoculars, systematically surveying their new companions. Ancient galleons with rotting sails somehow catching non-existent wind sailed alongside modern container ships whose GPS blinked coordinates, placing them in unmapped oceans. Viking longships rode through honey-thick waters, crews singing in languages predating written history, voices harmonizing with diesel engines in an impossible symphony. Captain Elena whispered, "I've identified 47 vessels, but hundreds more beyond visual range. Some haven't been built yet. Ship designs decades, maybe centuries beyond current technology, sailing alongside vessels that should have rotted long ago." Dr. Ashford emerged from below, medical bag clutched in trembling hands, uniform stained with substances defying identification. The crew is changing, physically, mentally, spiritually, becoming something else. Thompson hears radio transmissions from ships sunk before radio existed. Chen's drawings move on paper, showing events that haven't happened. And Mary, ... she gestured helplessly. Mary cooks meals for the dead, and somehow they're eating them. Cook Mary Thornfield's galley had expanded beyond original dimensions. stretching into spaces that shouldn't exist within the hull. Tables seated not only Cassandra's Dream's crew, but translucent figures appearing like heat mirages. These ethereal diners possessed mannerisms and clothing from different eras, eating with grateful enthusiasm of people hungry for decades. Mary served with professional courtesy, engaging in conversations about sunken ports and storms from when the world was younger. Through Thompson's impossible communications, the truth emerged. The Bermuda Triangle wasn't geographic but temporal, an anomaly where all maritime history moments existed simultaneously, where every ship that ever sailed these waters continued sailing in an eternal present, encompassing past and future. Vanished vessels hadn't been destroyed, but absorbed into the timeless fleet. Crews becoming a collective consciousness spanning centuries while retaining individual memories, personalities, hopes and fears. The realization brought comfort and terror. Comfort because death, conventionally, wasn't their fate. They'd continue existing, sailing, being themselves, while becoming part of something larger. Terror because it meant surrendering everything known. Everyone loved in linear time's world, accepting transformation into something no longer entirely human, yet not inhuman either. Captain Delacroix communicated with other captains who'd faced this choice. Voices coming through Thompson's radio with next cabin clarity, rather than cross centuries distance. Each crew member joining the fleet had been given choice. Attempt returning to original timeline, fighting currents growing stronger hourly, or accept transformation and join the eternal voyage sailing waters, deeper than any ocean toward destinations beyond human imagination boundaries. Dr. Ashford's examinations revealed accelerating physical transformation. Crew cells showed signs of existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. DNA reconfiguring into patterns resembling not genetic codes, but musical compositions, mathematical formulae, star charts of perpendicular dimensional constellations. Blood pressure readings showed impossible values, complete cardiac arrest and fatal circulation rates simultaneously on instruments never designed to measure paradoxes. Psychological changes proved subtler, but equally profound. Crew members shared not just thoughts but entire experiential histories. Consciousness blended at edges while maintaining distinct identity centers. Alina navigated using knowledge belonging to centuries-dead sailors. Modern training supplemented by intuitive celestial navigation understanding. Rodriguez maintained not only his engines but steam systems, sail configurations, even mystical propulsion from eras when technology and magic hadn't learned distinguishing themselves. The fleet responded to Cassandra's Dream's presence. Ships adjusted positions, accommodating newcomers. Crews waving greetings across waters, measuring miles and inches, depending on observers' perspective and emotional state. Ancient galleons raised colors in salute, flags bearing fallen kingdoms' coats of arms. Modern vessels flashed running lights, spelling welcome in a dozen maritime signal codes, greeting messages carrying sympathy undertones for approaching choice. As evening approached, though evening and morning lost meaning, where time flowed like thick honey in multiple directions, Cassandra's Dream's crew gathered on deck. They no longer needed summoning. Slowly absorbing the collective consciousness provided internal communications, allowing instinctive knowledge when group decisions needed making. When moments arrived for choices determining not just fate but fundamental nature, the moment of decision arrived, not with fanfare but profound silence preceding all significant transformations. Settling over Cassandra's Dream like morning mist, carrying potential for revelation or dissolution. Captain Delacroix stood at helm, hands resting on instruments that no longer registered readings from his once navigated world. Their displays showed measurements of interdimensional currents, depths extending into realms where physics became philosophy and navigation pure will. The ghost fleet arranged itself in vast circle around them, hundreds of vessels forming an amphitheater on impossible waters. Crews of the assembled ships stood at attention in silence, so complete it seemed absorbing sound itself. Ancient Egyptian ships with painted eyes sailed alongside nuclear submarines whose periscopes reflected not sky but depth memories, while clipper ships with dead whirlwind sails shared circles with container vessels whose holds carried not goods but dreams, hopes, regrets, and the accumulated weight of every crude decision ever made. Alina stood beside her captain, grandmother's rosary pulsing with internal light. The wooden beads were warm, as if containing not just prayers, but the compressed essence of every generation that had held them during crises. She'd been conducting final outside world communications, but the radio now carried only transformed voices. Centuries of sailors who'd faced identical choices, offering guidance simultaneously comforting and terrifying in implications. "Shore stations report us normal," she said, her voice carrying steady calm after abandoning denial's last pretenses. "Our families think we're sailing on schedule towards San Juan. The company expects us docking in 18 hours. But 18 hours may be 18 years here, or minutes, or centuries. Time has lost authority over us." Dr. Ashford emerged, carrying her leather portfolio containing her final report, though final became relative where endings and beginnings occupied identical temporal space. Her documentation revealed the transformation's full scope. Blood tests showed cellular structures in quantum superposition. Brain scans revealed neural activity resembling entire solar systems' electromagnetic signatures. Examinations indicated patients simultaneously alive, dead, and something unnamed, something not catalogued in any medical textbook. "The choice must be made, collectively," she announced, addressing not just Cassandra's Dream-S crew, but the assembled fleet, witnessing this moment, determining whether 24 souls would join the eternal voyage, or attempt returning to a world, possibly no longer recognizing them as entirely human. "What we've become cannot be sustained between worlds indefinitely. We must either complete transformation or risk dissolution, not death as understood, but consciousness scattering across timelines, making us forget not only who we were, but that we ever existed." Cook Mary spoke from her expanded galley, her voice carrying to every fleet vessel through acoustics, owing nothing to physics, everything to the shared consciousness's strange mathematics. She'd been preparing the last meal, not funeral feast, but celebration, serving either as welcome for eternal crew as new members, or farewell for souls choosing impossible return to linear time. The meal existed in all possible states simultaneously. First food ever cooked by human hands over beach fires, when our ancestors first looked toward horizons, wondering what lay beyond. And the last meal ever shared by beings once human before transcending species-defining limitations. As the choice loomed, Captain Delacroix thought not of the left-behind career or never-again-seen daughter, but profound responsibility borne not just to his crew, but every future sailor facing this identical choice. Their decision would become pattern part, guiding future crews, adding their voices to the testimony parliament, helping others navigate identical impossible waters. Radio engineer Thompson's equipment had become a voice parliament from across time, allowing crew to hear testimony from every sailor ever facing this choice. The testimonies were neither uniformly positive nor negative, reflecting the complexity of transformation itself. Some spoke of magnificent freedom, transcending human limitations, describing voyages through interatomic space, waters, starsong navigation, and ports existing only when approached by souls brave enough to believe their reality. Others spoke of profound loneliness, outliving not only lifetimes but civilizations, watching from eternal waters as once called home shores were claimed by rising seas, falling kingdoms, time's inexorable advance. They could observe but no longer directly participate in. They described watching families age and die while remaining unchanged, neither fully present nor entirely absent from left-behind worlds. As the moment of decision approached, the crew of Cassandra's Dream looked to their captain. A lifetime ago, he'd chosen this path to escape a dying world. Now he led his people toward an uncertain future, aware his choice echoed across centuries. "We are travelers between worlds," he began, his voice carrying the weight of generations on his shoulders. Facing a choice no map can guide us through. Ahead lie paths charted by no known laws, where physics yields to philosophy and navigation becomes pure intuition. Behind stretches familiar time, albeit altered by our absence, where loved ones will age, years passing for every moment spent here. We sail toward what may be both end and beginning, tragedy and triumph, one story's ending and countless others. There is no right answer, only what we must become to continue as one. Their decisions emerged one by one, emerging pattern reflecting not unanimous agreement, but the beautiful complexity of human decision-making facing truly impossible. Each choice resonated across the fleet, their individual stories becoming threads in a tapestry, telling humanity's eternal, unknown relationship tale. First to speak was Alina, her voice clear despite trembling hands. "My abuela's rosary, it feels warm, not just from handling it so much," she confessed, "but as if it contains not just prayers, but the very essence of every family member who held it before me. Do I choose to sever that connection, cut myself from generations past and future, or do I choose remaining here, risking forgetting not only who I am, but that I ever was?" Her eyes, usually sparkling with life, were shadowed with an ancient sadness. "I choose to remain with my people," she whispered, extending hand to touch the cool steel railing. One by one, the crew spoke their choice, some voices trembling, some firm, some filled with awe, some with regret, all filled with love. Chief Engineer O'Brien, his face weathered like the hull of a ship, chose to stay. "There's work to be done here," he said simply, "and I want to keep working." Dr. Ashford, her portfolio with its unsettling revelations falling to her side, chose to remain, stating, "There's still so much to learn." To turn back now would be abandoning the greatest discovery of our time. Even young deckhand Kim, barely more than a child, chose to stay, declaring, "This is where my adventure begins." And when the last choice was spoken, Cassandra's dream took her place among the eternal fleet, becoming part of the vast tapestry of the cosmos, no longer tethered to the dying sun's gravitational embrace. The Ghost Fleet welcomed its newest members with a ceremony belonging to no human tradition, yet feeling familiar to every participating soul. Beyond their world, the tapestry unfurled, reaching back in time to moments when other souls made similar choices. Their faces blurred, yet their decision echoing in the depths of Elena's soul. A lullaby sung by starlight. Some had chosen to remain with the fleet, becoming eternal travelers. Others had chosen to return, carrying the echoes of infinity within them, forever changed, forever aware. As the choice played out across the fleet, a sense of overwhelming peace settled over the bridge of Cassandra's dream. The impossible choice made, the transformation complete, their new reality shimmered on the horizon, beckoning with mysteries untrimmed, promising wonders just beyond the reach of understanding. In the tapestry of existence, new patterns emerged, a symphony of choices, a chorus of voices weaving a reality where endings and beginnings intertwined. The Ghost Fleet sailed on, an eternal testament to the resilience and adaptability of the human spirit. Their presence a beacon, their journey a guiding light for those who dared to dream beyond the boundaries of the known. As the Ghost Fleet vanished over the event horizon, the world they left behind stirred, as if sensing the profound shift in its inhabitants' souls. In the quiet moments between heartbeats, loved ones felt a warmth, an inexplicable connection to the vast canvas of the cosmos. A single tear traced a path down Elena's cheek, catching the last rays of the dying sun. It glittered like a captured star, a silent promise whispered across the chasm of infinite possibilities. The Ghost Fleet had become a legend, a myth whispered among sailors navigating the treacherous seas of existence. Their story, a reminder that even in the face of oblivion, hope could bloom, and that sometimes the greatest journeys are those taken not in space, but in the boundless expanse of the soul. And so the tale of the Ghost Fleet became a part of the sea's eternal memory, carried on ocean currents, woven into the tapestry of starlight, echoing in the chambers of the human heart. For those who dared to listen, the Ghost Fleet's story offered a profound truth, that the greatest adventures often lie hidden within the depths of our own being, waiting for the courage to navigate the uncharted waters of the soul.